Jack here, JB of Music and Guitar Lessons. This quick guitar trick is on Behind the Nut bends. You can see them in action in my Licks from Friends lesson, link up at the top right. For further study, I'd also really recommend checking out John 5's song Behind the Nut Love. Again, link up in the top right and down in the comments below. That song's in an open tuning, open E I believe, which works really well this technique, but what I'm going to do is show you some ideas in standard tuning, because at the end of the day,
you're basic.
Tuning is probably easier to get the hang of. So the basic technique is you just push down on the string behind the nut bend, somewhat self-explanatory. The further you push, the further the note goes, just like bending on the fretboard normally. You could use it on an open string like I did there, you could do it on feedback or with a sustained note or harmonic. You can even use it on a chord. Makes it sound a tiny bit like you got a chorus pedal on or something like that. So initially here I'm just going to be bending a semitone at first here, partly because my fingers can't do much more than that and also to try and keep this video fairly snappy and focused. But this is just to highlight that you can bend it further. The coolest stuff happens when you combine these ideas I've just outlined here. For example, let's play a chord, but instead of using behind the nut as vibrato like we did before, let's just poke it a note. So if we take a C major 7, right, if we push on the B string and move up a semitone, it becomes a C major. So you could pick at this as well, you know, you could just go, or, we can use the same idea to turn an A sus2 into an A minor, just by pushing down on the B string behind the nut, reading it about a semitone. Now this would be a good example of where you could actually bend a tone higher to get an A major. So say we just fingered an A major chord like this. So I got a bit more strength on these fingers to push it up a tone. It's got that happier kind of country sound. Now we can do a very similar thing on these strings here with a D minor. So we could take a D sus2 and push down on the E string a semitone. I found this one quite difficult, so I apologise if the intonation is rather sloppy. We could also do the same idea taking an F major 7 and turn it into an F major. So all I'm doing is pushing down on the E string behind the nut to raise its pitch and make it hopefully sound like an F major. For a bluesier sound, what we could do is take an E minor chord and then finger the G string to raise it up to make it an E major. So same idea, but just pushing down on the G string. It makes it sound a bit more like a pedal steel at times. It's got this really cool effect, and if we apply something like finger picking, we can get some pretty cool ideas. You know, I'm just kind of doing a basic pattern there. I'm pushing down on the string to get that kind of bluesy minor major sound. Okay, I'm really trying to keep this trick quick, but let's combine some other ideas. So let's take harmonics and bend some notes. So say we took a D, which we can play with harmonics on the 7th fret here. If we bend the B string up a semitone, we turn it to D sus4 and back again. We can do the same thing with a G, same notes but on the 5th fret. So you kind of get in, but with harmonics. We could also use tapped harmonics. For more information, check the link up in the top right there. So we could take something like this. I'm just bending the G string there. And essentially what I'm doing is moving from an E minor triad to a C major. Pretty cool. If you want to take this further, you can get a B bender. If you want to manipulate the strings from here, you can actually get special tuners that do it. They cost an awful lot per pop. The guitarist Adrian Legg, I was actually lucky enough to briefly study under, uses them to great effect. Link up to the top right to some of his work if you want to check him out. Fantastic player, well worth listening to. To recap, you can bend the string here. I'd guess up to maybe 3 semitones at most, depending on your setup, you know, how much tension you got here, how strong you are. You can use it for vibrato, for feedback, or over sustained notes. You could use it with harmonics, you could use it on chords, and also combine some of these ideas. With the chords in particular, you can experiment with resolving the chord and playing with the tension release, a bit like I did with those sus4 harmonics there. Cool, so as always, I really hope this video has been useful for you guys, both speedy and informative, and that you've learned a cool, albeit somewhat gimmicky trick, and have a good idea of how to use it, some examples for further study, and can incorporate this into your own craft. If that has been the case, you've taken some away, a new bit of information, and want to show support for the channel, please do consider to share, like, comment and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.